Greetings, Monday. Start in the United States of America, specifically California and California real estate licenses. And as you can imagine, I'm surprised the amount of brokers hasn't gone down a lot more, but it's flat to moving downwards. But the amount of salespeople in Californian real estate has really come down greatly. I'm just throwing this into a bit of a personal aspect on it, that the sell side, the selling people are also laid off. And I wanted to say that I couldn't find a good article to express just how much California is out of money. It is in a dreadful, dreadful, dreadful state. It's had the change of governor or whatever, but even his new efforts of looking down the backs of cities and everywhere they can in Sacramento, they've not actually found bundles of money, and they are now still well short of money. And where goes California, there goes the rest of the United States. Right. This article in Barron's called Dalio's World, I read it and thought, this is an interview. Who's it with? Ray Dalio. Well, it could have been with me. I agreed with it that much. It's a good summation of everything. Financial Times. Corporates have a debt mountain to climb. Where am I going to go with this? I'll read it and see if I remember why I've put it in here. The unfolding Greco-Spanish drama is so gripping as to make it hard to focus on anything else. But if we tear our attention away, a slightly depressing fact presents itself, that Europe's corporate sector is in a longer-term funding crisis all of its own. So we know the countries themselves, the sovereigns, the independent sovereigns are in their own funding crisis. We know the banks have got their own crises on the go, and this is the non-financial corporate sector. It is not news that the non-financial companies, or corporates for short, have a mountain of debt to refinance in coming years. Less obviously, as pointed out in a study from Standard & Poor's, they also have to raise massive new sums to finance growth and recovery. The global figure over the next 5 years, this is a global figure, not just Europe, global figure over the next 5 years is put by S&P at $43 to $46 trillion, depending on assumptions. Of that, some 30 trillion is refinancing, the rest new money. Now, I remember why I put this in now. To talk about the thing that is, I call in my mind, the big number problem. Express this. Big number problem. You don't have to extrapolate far out from what we have now, the figures. You take the old figures and just project them forward, and most of them go upwards. The United States medical numbers are classic ones to extrapolate upwards, and it's not long before you get into the big number problem, as in it gets into trillions. Now it's hard for us to understand these big number problems, but say for the medical one, we can imagine that where an insurance premium now for medical care in the United States is, for example, just taking a number, $1,000 a month. When these numbers go up into the trillions in the not far distant future, to make the appropriate numbers for people correct, we need numbers something along the lines of $10,000 per month in insurance premiums. Yeah, it's kind of this big number problem, but taken down to the person level. But it's not as though that's a quantum jump. It's not a great big leap, because we've had it before. We've had it all our lives. We could interpolate, we can go backwards in time to when the big numbers were in the billions, or let's say even the millions back then. And our insurance premiums for medical coverage would be $100 a month. We've gone from $100 a month to $1,000 a month and managed it. And we project forward that that $1,000 a month has got to go to be $10,000 a month. You know, those are our little numbers, but in the meantime, there are big numbers, obviously governmental type numbers, going from millions, billions, and up into the trillions. Now, we have handled it before, to some extent, by getting our salaries raised, basically. But that seems to be sticky. We don't seem to be getting our salaries raised as much as we did in the past. So, whereas the projection for the big number goes from billions into trillions, it's very hard to know where the smaller personal numbers are going to go from. The example was $1,000 a month for the premium up to $10,000 a month for the premium. Because if you need $10,000 a month for the premium, you need a very large salary per month. And it's very hard to know where that personal salary increase is going to come in, and that is just let's just call it an idea that I'll put out there and float out there, and I won't say anything more about it. Financial Times again, and this is let's say it's the big number problem, but on the government side. Paul de Graal, who now teaches the LSE, puts the point forcefully. In a nutshell, the difference in the nature of sovereign debt between members and non-members of a monetary union, as in the United States, United Kingdom, non-members of a monetary union, and Spain and France and Germany, who are members of a monetary union, the difference boils down to the following. Members of a monetary union issue debt in a currency over which they have no control. It follows that financial markets acquire the power to force default in these countries: Greece, Spain, ultimately France and Germany. This is not the case in countries that are no part of a monetary union, United Kingdom, United States, and have kept control over the currency in which they issue debt. These countries cannot easily be forced into default by financial markets. Now, again, that's just a thing that we should always have floating at the back of our minds. It's utterly crucial to so many things. Right. Staying in Europe, this chart, number 5, if you've moved on, net claims of national central banks within the euro system target balances. Now, this really is target to balances, but you can imagine it as deposit flight, if you wanted to. From the bottom, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Italy and Spain are all in the minuses. Their bank deposits have shrunk, and pro rata, if you add the numbers up, they're about the same. Green, Germany, on the positive side, has gone up 650 billion euro. More deposits in German banks. Now, these are target to balances, or you can just think of deposit flight from those 5 peripheral countries. They've decided to put their money more safely into Germany. And it's a double bet putting it into Germany, because if Germany leaves the euro, the euros in that particular bank account that you've got there will probably be turned into very strong Deutschmarks. So it's a sensible bet to do. And it's a sensible bet as well to move your money out of those peripheral countries. If for the banks are in trouble, and if the country pulls out, you've got real exchange rate risk. If if capital controls are put in and your bank account is frozen and changed to new pesetas, lira, drachma, or whatever it might be. Right. Problem with the euro. land is the way it was set up. It's set up as a roach motel. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. What makes bank runs so lethal in the Eurozone is the legal framework. The most important rights conferred by the EU to its citizens are the 4 fundamental freedoms. That are of movement of labour, movement of goods, movement of services, and movement of capital, conferred as rights to European citizens. Article 66 of the Treaty of the Functioning of the European Union says the freedom of capital movement can be suspended, but only in relation to third countries. The article can be invoked, maybe, to stop Greek outflows, for example, to Switzerland, the third party, but not to Germany, at least not legally. That is one of the reasons why a Eurozone exit cannot legally be accomplished inside the EU. So much talk of Greek exit, but why would the Greeks ever want to exit? And why would any of the other countries in the Eurozone want them to exit, quite frankly? And this is what they knew when they were setting up this monstrosity, that examples of this sort of crisis would come up, and the only thing to do is to set up institutions which will take care of the transfer of monies from the countries with money in the Eurozone to the countries that are short of money in the Eurozone. That is, the core countries will end up paying for the peripheral countries. And that's it. Maybe see you tomorrow. I've got a bit of a drive tomorrow to see the heart surgeon, so I'll see how I go. But if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. Bye.